Hello everyone, welcome to another one of our Facebook Lives. So it feels like Halloween is on its way. I'm seeing the pumpkins and the decorations and everything in the stores. And Deb, who works here, who you have not met yet, is a big Halloween fan, to the extent that she decorates more for Halloween than she does for Christmas. And she's telling me that that has become a bigger day for decoration even than over the holidays, which is very interesting. And based on the amount of merchandise that I'm seeing in some of these stores for Halloween, I'm believing that. So Betsy was here when we were talking about this whole Halloween thing, and she pointed out the fact that we have this really cool fabric, wonderful, charming cotton print that's called Haunted House Going Goth. So it is a holiday Halloween fabric. Doesn't particularly feel all that as much about Halloween as just a great little interesting print. So it reminded me to talk about a pattern that we have that we don't talk about very often, and that is the Tamari apron. And I think that it would be a really fun thing to do to make a Christmas or a Thanksgiving or a Halloween apron for yourself or your friend, a gift. So I'm going to show you the Tamari apron. This is the Tamari apron. It's literally a square of fabric, hemmed with some different hem allowances. Don't ask me why, I can't remember. Has a pocket on it, divided into two sections. It has two straps, one that's long and one that's shorter. And it has a loop along one side. And all the instructions for how to cut the pieces and make the apron are in this little pattern. So I'm going to put it on for you, because it takes a little ingenuity to put it on. So there's a long strap, so you put the long strap over your left shoulder through the loop. Remember your L's. Grab the long strap, put it through the loop, and then you can tie it to the remaining strap. And you have this very Asian, asymmetric, wonderful apron that has a lot of coverage and, of course, some pockets for your spatula. So, Tamari apron. But think about this fabric using maybe the black and white check for the pockets and the stripes. Wouldn't that be cute? I think this is really fun. You could wear this year-round, actually. It doesn't have to be for Halloween. But in kind of looking through our fabrics a couple of days ago, we found these two fabrics that we didn't know we had. So I thought I'd show them to you because they'd make great aprons. We haven't talked about the ikat idea of things. Ikat is generally a woven fabric in these sort of, some people call them Aztec type patterns, but it's a geometric pattern. It's definitely a certain look. So this is a cotton print, a little bit heavier. I won't call it a canvas, but it could be called a canvas in the sense that it's heavier than a quilting cotton. But it has this fabulous, colorful ikat print on it. So we have it in this colorway, the blues, reds, and greens. And we have it in another colorway, a more fall, Thanksgiving, warm tone, rust greens, golds, browns. Isn't that great? That'd make a great Tamari apron. And when you cut it out and put it on, this would be on the diagonal, which would be pretty interesting, actually. So just an idea. We're going to have those fabrics on sale, which I'll tell you about later. So it's Tamari apron. All right, today we're going to talk about fashion fleece. And the reason that I'm calling it fashion fleece is that this is not the kind of fleece that you buy in the big box stores that's fleecy on both sides and that people make a lot of these sort of generic blankets out of. This is fleece that you see in the high-end stores in fantastic ready-to-wear, places like Lululemon, for example, an athletic wear company. And so it has a smooth surface on one side, like a jersey, so you see the little ribs, and on the back side you see the fleece side. So that's what I'm calling fashion knits. We have gotten so many of these in. I'm going to show them to you at the end of all of this, all the colors that we have. Plus we have matching ribbings, which are very difficult to find. Many times you can find ribbing in black or white or gray or some neutral color, but we have great colors that coordinate with the fleeces that we have in. This is fleece by the tube. I'll show you that later as well. Or you can buy fleece, we don't have this, but you can buy fleece by the strips. Generally, fleece is used for cuffs, bands, and trimmings to garments. But you can make an entire garment out of ribbing as well. I don't do that. I haven't done that yet. Might think about it. But for now, I'm using it as trims. So I want to show you some garments and patterns that we've used the fleece to make. And I'll start with what I have on, I guess. I have on the West End top. So this is the West End that I made over the weekend in this beautiful hunter green fleece. Now the outside of it is the jersey, so it's smooth, and the inside of this is the soft fleece side. I'll pull that a little bit closer, so I don't know if you can pick up the texture difference or not. There's the fleece side, here's the smooth side. So you see the fleece side on the hood. So last Friday when Erin and I were thinking about making this, we had decided that I would use a ponte knit, for the back actually. So because there are diagonal seams here and you would see another pattern coming around to the front. And I actually had cut that out in this ponte knit that's printed in this great floral design. And so it was going to be like this. Half of the sleeve coming around to the front. Well, I did apply it to the facings of this West End top, and then I just had second thoughts. I don't know about you, I can make decisions for everyone else, and I have a terrible time making decisions for myself. So I went down to the TV den, where of course my husband is sitting with the flipper, and asked him what he thought. And he decided that I should make the whole thing in the same fleece. So that's what I did. I have no idea what I should have done. You can post your comments about, uh-oh, she made a mistake, she should have used that ponte, it would have been much cooler. But this is the way it turned out, and I'm actually pretty happy with it. I have on the West End top, not in a fleece, it's actually in a sweater knit, but you can see how it's styled on me. All right, so then we have the Bristol top. And this time I used both sides as the right side. So obviously the yoke is the smooth side, the body is the fleece side, and the sleeves are the smooth side as well. And the Bristol is really an interesting pattern to make. It has this back panel that's shaped, and that's also in the smooth knit. So you get this slight texture, color, hue change when you make the Bristol. The Bristol pattern is a top or a dress. This is the dress version. And we also have one in a fleece combination. This is actually a French terry combination, actually, now that I say that. But this is a different texture, the one side of the fabric, and this is the other side of the fabric. So you get this slight textural change to it. And then this has been trimmed with the black and white and gray stripe on the cuffs and the band. So dress or top, either one, makes a great garment for the fleece. A couple of other possibilities. One of our simplest patterns of all time to make is the E shrug. And you know when you have an E in front of a name of our patterns, that means it's a download pattern only. So this is a little pattern that you download called the E shrug. Erin made this, and I think it's so clever how she added the bands and used cover stitching as the trim and the connection. She did that on the sleeves and the bottom. This is literally 2 pattern pieces, an entire body, there's no side seams or back seam, and a sleeve pattern. So it sews up super quickly, and because fleece is a knit, you can leave the edges raw, and because it's a jersey, it will roll to the right side. So the edges can be left raw, neatly finished, or you can add some bands or trim or stitching or whatever to your choosing. And another one is the E jacket, another download pattern that is also just 2 pieces. Very interesting construction on this. There's a collar band that comes around and forms the entire front and comes around to the back. And then the back is the sleeve. So it's super easy to make, 2 pieces, and just has a simple little tuck at the neck to create this shape around the neck. We don't talk about this garment very much, but I happen to really, really, really like it. Did you make this, Erin? I think you did. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Erin's into fleece and into gray and into little jackets. So those are the garments that we're going to talk about. But let's talk about how you deal with the fleece, the fashion fleece. We get this question all the time about how do you care for your fabrics? How do you pre-wash them? What's going to happen? We don't always know. Obviously, fabrics come in. We don't take every fabric home and wash it to see what's going to happen. But we do recommend that whatever fabric you are ordering or getting online or even that you buy in the store, you want to know what's going to happen to it before you even cut out your garment. And so these fabrics, both the fleece and the ribbing, pre-washed. I cut a 6-inch square of the fleece and got a little bit of shrinkage vertically. So if I bought 2.5 yards of this, I probably lost a couple of inches. I didn't lose anything in the width of this fleece. For the ribbing, I was really surprised by this. It shrunk. This was a 4-inch square, and you can see it's no longer square. I lost a 1/2 inch in 4 inches. So I thought that was interesting. I would have thought that because ribbing is stretchy on the cross grain, it would have shrunk crosswise. It didn't shrink at all crosswise. So without pre-washing, I wouldn't have known what to do. And I also know that this washes beautifully. I didn't lose any color, and the texture didn't change, and it just turned out beautifully. So we always suggest that whatever fabric you're using, if you're thinking you're going to wash the garment, cut out a 4-inch square or a 6-inch square, throw it in the washing machine with other things, put it in the dryer, just see what happens to it, and then you'll know. You'll know whether to cut it out or not. If you don't like the results, put the fabric aside for another project, give it away, leave it in your stash, whatever. So let's talk about some general sewing techniques for this. Remember that fleece is sort of like velvet. It does have a nap. So you want to always lay out your pieces in the same direction so that the nap, which can fade from light to dark as you move it or rub it with your hands, is going the same direction. And you generally want the nap to go down, just like velvet. I used my even feed feature on my sewing machine. You could add a walking foot, whatever. But this is lofty fabric. The presser foot wants to sort of get into it, and it's tricky to sew fleece without a walking foot because one layer is going to move differently through the presser foot or through the machine than the other layers. So you want a walking foot so that it's evenly feeding both layers at the same rate. And your seams end up at the same ending point and not one is longer than the other. I used a simple seam finish. I sewed the seam on the 5/8 inch seam allowance, and then I used my isocord, remember, embroidery thread, and 3-thread serged the edges. I had a friend tell me that she went into her local Bernina store and told them that she wanted some isocord thread for serging. And the dealer said, you can't use it for serging, it's only for embroidery. Well, in fact, isocord thread is made for embroidery, but it makes a beautiful finish for serging. So just don't tell people why you're buying it, just buy it, it works, trust me. Now, when you want two layers to hold together without pinning, in the case of a zipper, which I'll talk about in a minute, you're going to want some no-sew basting thread. We sell a product that comes from Japan. We love our Japanese products. They're a little bit higher priced than most, but they're worth every extra 10 cents that they are. But this is a covered line of tape. So you apply it by hand, and what's left, and you remove the paper covering, and you get this little line of adhesive. The reason I use this is you don't want to press fleece very hard, if at all. You want to hand press it, you want to steam it, hand press it, because you can leave an impression, just like velvet, on the fleece. I have many a garment that has the impression of the shape of an iron, which it's not all that attractive, with holes in it even, or where the holes are, you see the impressions. So you want to get yourself some no-sew basting tape, and we happen to like the brand that we sell. And then careful pressing is a really big deal. So I dug out my equipment that I use for sewing velvet, and it just came in super handy. You're familiar with Velcro. That's a brand name, actually. And Velcro has two layers. One layer that has teeth and one layer that's fuzzy. Well, you can buy Velcro by the sheet. You don't have to buy it in the little strips on the roll. You can get these in a lot of places. If you'll Google Velcro sheets, you'll see a lot of places where it comes up. You'll get a sheet with the two layers, take off the fuzzy sheet and discard it, you won't need it, and keep the tooth side so that you can lay this on your pressing surface, and this is the side that the fleece goes down on, and you can press or steam over this, and it will keep the fleece, the fuzzy side, lifted and doesn't leave an impression of the iron. That's one way to do it. What I like about this is you can get a big sheet and cover your entire surface, so you're not having to move the pressing surface around. It's already there over the entire ironing surface. I've also ordered some really inexpensive mohair. Sometimes you can go to the back end of some of the big box stores in their upholstery section, and you'll find these rolls of kind of rough mohair, frisé type fabrics. Well, buy a yard or two of it. Again, cover your whole surface, and you're ready to seam and press on fleece type fabrics. I also used a press cloth, and we use organza press cloths here. We sell them. I already did a pre-cut. This is not one that we sell. This has been used many times. But silk organza I like because you can see through it, and I don't want to press where I can't see. I like that. Even the see-through press cloths that you buy packaged like that, to me, are not as sheer, not as good. This just does the job. Very easy to work with. So those are your tips for sewing fleece. So what about ribbing? The ribbing that we are selling comes in a tube. It is about 19 inches wide, and it's continuous. So this is a fold, and this is a fold. It's a very fine rib. It's not a super wide rib, so I like it. It's very refined, very high-end looking, very fashion-oriented. I found that when I was making this West End top, and I used the rib on the bands and on the sleeves, that these pieces were longer than this width of 19 inches. So I cut along the fold and used the entire width then. You can open it up and use it as a single layer. That being said, on the back of our envelope, we say, I think you need 1/3 of a yard, let's say, for these trim pieces normally. But I found I had to buy twice that much because of the width issue on this particular tubing and ribbing. So just keep that in mind. You might want to order 2/3 of a yard of this, or actually a yard is our minimum on our website. So you would want to order a yard of ribbing. And with the amount of shrinkage that you're getting of this, it's not a problem to have a little extra anyway. So that's how it looks when it comes. You want to use your walking foot, definitely. And I also had a little trouble pinning this. It felt like it was going through something besides fabric. It reminded me that I need to change my pins often. Here we are as sewers. We're buying expensive fabric. We're sewing on $6,000 sewing machines or more. We have more than one machine. We're not afraid to buy all the equipment that we need, and then we get kind of cheap about our pins. So about every year or so, I just get rid of all my pins and start over because I want sharp pins, pins that aren't bent. I'm telling you, you want your best pins, your best silk head, glass head silk pins, didn't say that quite right, to pin into the ribbing. You could also use your little clips if you don't want to pin it. Either way, it's pretty easy to work with, but you just want to have some good pins. All right, I'm going to talk about, we'll just leave that right there. I'm going to show something with it. I'm going to talk to you about this zipper application in the West End top and a couple of other things as well. Decorative zippers that are exposed, where the teeth are exposed, these can become pretty wavy. In fact, the one I have on is a little bit wavy. So I'm not sure. I made this a while ago. I'm not even sure I made it. Maybe Kathy did. I can't remember. We have arguments about that in the office about who made what. Doesn't matter. But this can become very wavy if you don't take care of things. I found that if I reinforce the edges of this over the seam allowance, I used our Japanese ultra sheer interfacing, which we sell in 3 colors, in black, white, and neutral. It's a tricot interfacing. This is my #1 interfacing. It's the interfacing I use all the time, not just for knits, but for wovens as well, from heavy wovens to lightweight wovens. I find this is the most universal interfacing I have ever found. The Japanese interfacings have become pretty expensive, I have to say. Everything that's coming out of Japan right now is more expensive. I find that it's worth it, but if that is above your budget, we do have other interfacings as well that I like very much that we have ordered in that are about half the price. But either way, you want some tricot fusible interfacing. Cut an inch-wide strip and place it down straddling the seam allowance of both fronts, so that you're sewing the zipper to the area where this is reinforced. So then I'm applying the zipper. Now, in the old days, I would tell you to use Fusee Web and fuse the zipper tape down first. But I've backed off on that a little bit because on some of the zippers, and you never know which ones, the tapes will shrink with heat and steam. So now you're talking bubbling and rippling of a zipper. So I don't want to get the iron on the zipper tapes anymore. So that's when I'm using this no-sew product to, quote, glue my zippers in place. I'm marking my 5/8 inch seam allowance with chalk so that I can put this on the inner part of the seam allowance right next to the chalk line, and then I can press the zipper tape down without an iron, just finger pressing it. I'm finger pressing the no-sew basting tape down, and I'm finger pressing the zipper tape to the product as well. So it's all nailed down, no pinning, no clamping. And then I'm using my generic zipper foot on my Bernina so that I can move my zipper foot out of the way. For some reason I can't make this happen. Yeah, I like a zipper foot that moves. And on a Bernina, the zipper foot does not move, the needle position moves, and I can't get the needle outside of the edge of the zipper foot. So that's why I buy a shank from Bernina, a little shank, and I can put a generic zipper foot that moves on that shank and get the kind of presser foot that I really want for my machine. Some machines you don't have to do that, of course. If you have a machine like a FOF, the foot moves, you're good to go. Or you can buy the little generic feet from YLI. We sell some of those as well. That's another foot that you can use. But either way, you're wanting to place that zipper in such a way that where you sew and apply it is 5/8 of an inch from the edge, but you're still going to have the teeth showing and a little bit of the tape. So that takes a little bit of working through to make that stitching mark exactly where you want it, which is why you want that kind of zipper foot, so you can see exactly where you're stitching. And most zipper tapes have some sort of a definition in the weave of the tape, and you can follow that line. So that's how I was able to get my zipper installation really smooth. I'm really happy with the way this is. At the top, it's just turned back on a 45-degree angle, so there's no need to finish the top of that zipper. The tape is neatly folded back and it ends really nicely. There's a detail to the west end that is pretty signature to the sewing workshop. You have a shoulder seam, and then that shoulder seam turns and becomes the back seam as well. So this is a corner that has to be stitched really perfectly and marked perfectly as well. So on a fleece, because chalk marks don't really work and pencils don't really work, I'm going to use a tailor tack to mark exactly at that point. And then I'm going to stay stitch 5/8 of an inch through that point along both adjacent edges, making my little L or V or whatever shape it becomes. And then I can clip really aggressively into that tailor tack point so that opens up to be able to sew the shoulder and the neck and the shoulder. Now I've learned that I need to sew the shoulders first, sew from either the end to the point or point to the end, it doesn't really matter, but sew the shoulder seams first and then clip and then lay the neck seam in instead of trying to sew all of it all in one. That technique is in a segment called the San Diego neckline tips. I know we're not talking about the San Diego, but it happens on several of our patterns. The Zona jacket, the San Diego top and tunic and jacket, this pattern. And so in our blog, if you go to sewingworkshop.com, click on blog, there is an index, that's what you call it, on the right-hand side, and go to San Diego, and this will pop up. The whole how to sew that is free to you on that blog tutorial, so check that out. We also have another tutorial called Make a West End Top, which takes you from start to finish of how to sew this garment, including these zipper techniques, sewing the shoulder, finishing this edge. The bottom edge of this is actually left raw or serged. It can be turned if you choose to, but I did a 3-thread serge across here, and I like the way that looks, the whole kind of raw edge thing. This particular band on this is the ribbing, but the one I have on, the fabric is a contrasting, more shiny fabric. It's like a lining fabric, actually. It looks like silk. What you can't see that I have on is, I came in this morning with my Bristol top on in white, and we determined that it wasn't, the white didn't work. There's a reason why you never see white on the women who are doing the news on the national stage. So Erin is backing up so you can see. So I threw on this West End top on top, and we thought it was really interesting how these two hemlines really looked good together. So I have on a Bristol top underneath. I didn't take it off to put on the West End. I just threw the West End on over it, and we thought it was pretty cool, so I left it on. So, all right, I want to show you some fabrics. So you've seen the ribbing in the red rust color. Here's the fleece. Oops, pinned together, of course. Let's get that tag off of here. So fashion fleece with the smooth side on the face and the fleece fuzzy side on the back with the matching ribbing. Perfect match. Came from the same company. Perfect. We have other solids that have matching ribbings. We have this beautiful sort of a coral color. Same thing with the fleece on the back side. Isn't that a gorgeous color? So we have the matching ribbing. See how drapey it is? It's soft, cuddly, cozy, drapey. So if you're intimidated by knits, I think you'll be all right with these. They're pretty easy to sew. You've seen the green one with the matching ribbing that we have. We have this wonderful grape color, sort of a soft gray grape color. These particular fleeces that we have the same color on the face and the back. Slightly different tone, but basically piece dyed. Ribbing to match that one. We have my color of green, a more yellow green, although I like the hunter green too. Again, same color on both sides. Matching ribbing. We have black, which I'm not going to show you. And we are getting a beautiful gold. We also have some other fleeces that are not the same color on each side. These are a little bit heavier and still would just be fantastic. And these we have in some beautiful neutrals, which is, I don't know, I'm seeing neutral all over the magazine. So here's this lovely heather, sort of pinkish gray, but look at the back side of this one. And then in the same weight, a little bit heavier, we have the charcoal with the off-white backing. And we have this sand color also with the same backing. So a little heavier, but the same issues. Polyester thread, I don't think I mentioned that before because it's a knit. Polyester thread, walking foot, same seam finish, treat it the same way, the same careful pressing. Now, just this morning, we get packages all the time of new fabric, and we had 3 new ones come in the door this morning. They are not on the website yet, so stay tuned. They will be. But look at this beautiful rose color fleece, a great red, beautiful cherry red, same color on the other side. These are beautiful fleeces, so soft. And then we have, you can see it's a jersey, it curls to the right side, and then my green, my for sure green. Actually, as we put these out on the floor this morning, we decided this is a great color combination. So you could color block it. Then we have a couple of more that are even a little bit fuzzier. And this time, the face side is light gray, and the reverse side is a pretty fuzzy fleece in the dark gray. So you have light to dark. And then we have this fantastic pink. Same color on both sides, smooth side, fleece side, pale pink. So there you go. We have a tutorial called Sew a Knit Wardrobe that Erin and I think would be a pretty useful tutorial if you're a little bit uncomfortable with sewing with knits or how to put things together. It's a great little tutorial as well. You know, we have, I think, I haven't counted lately, but oh boy, we have 40, 50, 60 tutorials on our website that you should always check out. They're part of our So Confident series, and after a year's time, we break out some of those tutorials and we put them separately as individual tutorials on our website. So be sure and take a look at those. All right, we do have, you want to do questions first? Let's do questions.
Okay. All right. They were asking about the red fleece. I'm not sure which one, but whether it's a true red or an orange red.
It's a little bit of an orange red. The question is what kind of red is the red one? We call it red on the website, I noticed, but it really does have a bit of a warm rust undertone.
Okay, the Bristol, does it run large?
Does the Bristol run large? No, I don't think it runs large. I think it's pretty true to size. I have on a small. I can wear a medium. I can probably wear a large. The big oversized sweatshirt thing is really in. My daughter just ordered a sweatshirt from a small designer and ordered it really big. And I've noticed that we're seeing that big top with some skinnier pants. It's a really great look. But the Bristol top does run pretty true.
How much stretch do the fleeces have?
How much stretch do the fleeces have? I actually haven't measured that, but if you'll give me a half a second, I'll step off camera and I'll just do it right now. So 5 inches stretches to 7 inches. So if someone's smarter than I am about percentage, that's what it is.
Okay, the E-shrug, you talked about it's only 2 pattern pieces. How are the shoulder seams created?
The E-shrug is 2 pattern pieces. How are the shoulder seams sewn? So this is a pattern that has circular cutouts for the arm's eye. So you have a front shoulder and a back shoulder, and they're just connected and sewn.
So you talked about the fleece and the ribbing being shrinking slightly. How do you adjust your pattern and sewing for these shrinkage rates?
The question is, how do you adjust your pattern for dealing with the shrinkage rates of the fabrics? You don't adjust your pattern. You pre-wash the fabric at least one time, wash it and dry it, get it to where all of the shrinkage is gone, and then you just cut out the size of pattern that you are working with, and it should be fine. Then you should be fine from then on. But no, you don't adjust your pattern for that. You adjust the fabric to go with the pattern size that you're making.
So for the isocord thread, do you use all 3, or do you use...
For the isocord thread, do I use all 3 or just one? I use isocord thread in all 3. The needle and both of the loopers, all 3. I don't mix my threads very often in my serging. I want them all to relate, feel the same weight. Occasionally, if I don't have the right color, I will change the needle thread. But if I've got all 3, I'll use them.
We talked about wavy zippers. Is that just on the fleece or on all fabrics?
Wavy zippers, is that just on fleece or all fabrics? That's all fabrics. I think that zippers have to be handled with a lot of care. They have to be laid down 1-to-1 ratio. They've got to be laid down carefully, basted down or with basting tape, whatever. If you can't get a good look when you've even just laid it down and basted it, then you've got a problem with your zipper. You want your zipper to be able to lie flat from the get-go, just even looking at it on the table. If you've got a wavy zipper on the table, I wouldn't use it.
How could you pre-shrink the zipper?
Could you pre-shrink the zipper? I've never done that. I don't know.
Either with steam or pre-washing it, would you wash it?
I don't. That question has stumped me because I've never washed a zipper. I've never pre-washed a zipper. I suppose if the theory would be what you're thinking is, if you then wash the garment, does the zipper shrink and become wavy afterwards? I've not had that happen. So I think once you get it in there and sewn in, I think you're good to go. I don't know. That's a question for someone else to answer. Who's done it?
Okay. On the E-shrug, we're going to find a lengthening sleeves tutorial.
The lengthening sleeve how to lengthen the sleeve in the E-Shrug is in the pattern.
Yes.
So once you download the pattern, those instructions for lengthening are there.
Yes. Okay. Could you use double knits for all these patterns?
Could I use double knits for all these patterns? Absolutely. It'd be a perfect fabric. It could be a ponte knit. It could be a double weave. Basically, ponte is a double knit. So yes, absolutely.
Could you use the rib trim for the collar of the onday jacket?
Could you use the rib trim for the collar of the onday jacket? Yes.
Okay. Does the West End tutorial cover how to lengthen it?
Does the West End tutorial cover how to lengthen it? The answer is no. Lengthening asymmetric patterns I've dealt with in a previous Facebook Live. Was it last week? I can't remember. Maybe Betsy can post that as to which Facebook Live you go back to, or have I done that in Facebook Live? I've done it so many times. We have lengthen and shorten lines on the pattern, first of all. And the key is that once you spread the pattern, then you want to reconnect from under the arm to the bottom circumference with a straight line.
Can you use the fleece to make or have you ever used the fleece to make an Ikena jacket without the flanges? And if you're using a knit, can you cut the band on the cross grain instead of on the bias?
The Ikena jacket, by the way, we are bringing that out as a download very shortly. So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, it's a simple sort of kimono-style jacket that has a band that we normally cut on the bias and some full sleeves, just a nice, easy jacket to make. So the question was, can you make it in fleece? The answer is yes. I've not done that. I think it'd be great as a fleece jacket. Without a collar,
What would you use on that band? Would you do it on the cross grain?
if you use the band, I've cut the band many times on the cross grain or the lengthwise grain. That band does not have to be cut on the bias. In fact, I sort of prefer it that way now. I also like to cut that band width down a little bit to maybe 3 inches instead of the 5 or 6 that it is now. It kind of depends on whether you're using a single layer and you want it to fold back, or if you're doubling it like the pattern says and you're using it as a trim band. I think you have to think about the look, whether it's single layer or folded as double. But that band can be cut on any direction, bias, lengthwise, cross grain. It could be in the ribbing. But I thought the question was, can you make it without the band? That I've never done.
Without the flanges.
Oh, without the flanges. Oh, absolutely. We leave the side flanges off of the Ikena jacket all the time, and it works great. What I do with that, though, is instead of having a seam allowance at these openings, I do increase the width of those, so it's more of a hem than a seam allowance width that turns back. Finishes it a little bit nicely.
And we do have, I think it's in the gallery, that orange quilted knit Ikena jacket. That might be
Yes, in the gallery there is an orange quilted fleecy knit Ikena jacket that you might look at. It could be a little bit of inspiration for you. Yeah.
Could you make pants from the fleece?
Can you make pants from the fleece? Absolutely. We're coming out with another pattern of a sweatshirt and pants. It'll be perfect. You'll be seeing it in fleece. The Chesney pants that are part of the So Confident program, Erin made for the August edition actually it was French terry, but it's the same principle, same sort of material, and it would be great.
What about using it for the helix and kind of reversing it?
Oh yeah, fleece for the helix top. I want to do that because you do see the different textures it's called the helix because it's a spiral in the way that it's constructed. So you see the diagonal seams come around your body. So one sleeve is another texture than the other sleeve. That would be a fantastic use for the fleeces. Yeah.
Does the fleece stay plush with washing or does it get pilled?
Does the fleece stay plush when washing? This did not pill. It stayed fuzzy. It did not change in character. So I think you're good to go. No pilling that I can see. This does not have polyester in it. It's always the polyester that wants to pill. These are cotton and rayon, I believe, and spandex.
Okay.
Rayon of bamboo, actually, is what they are, now that I think about it.
Yeah, 70% rayon of bamboo and 30% cotton.
Yeah, 70% rayon of bamboo, 30% cotton. No spandex in it, huh? Okay. We have 3 or 4 varieties here, so there may be some differences in percentages of fibers, but essentially that's what we're talking about.
What about a long Chicago?
What about a long Chicago? Oh, yeah. We've talked about lengthening the Chicago jacket, wearing it with your sports wear, and in a fleece. That would be dreamy, fabulous. Yeah.
Or a flat iron. Somebody made a flat iron.
Somewhat, yes, or a flat iron coat or a jacket. Either one would make great fleece. The flat iron, we generally leave the edges raw, and this is the perfect fabric to use raw. Now, you realize when we talk about jerseys, we talk about the curling to the right side when you stretch it on the cross grain. So let's say you made a flat iron in fleece. The bottom of the flat iron would have a curl to the right side, but vertically, the curl would be to the wrong side. Nothing wrong with that, I'm just telling you. It's going to be a different curl.
Can you show the ponte trim on the west end again?
The ponte trim is literally the facing pieces that are included in the pattern. So it's a narrow, 1.5 inch wide finished ponte. I had no trouble marrying the ponte to the fleece, by the way, with my walking foot. So.
We have quite a few ponte prints that would look nice.
Yes, we have a lot of ponte prints, and they're really fun. So check those out.
Someone made a Liberty. Would a Liberty be good in the fleece, or is it too heavy?
Would the Liberty be good in the fleece, or would it be too heavy? Yeah, can you go grab the one off that rack? I love the Liberty as a sweatshirt type casual top when it's made with the center front on the fold rather than buttoned and eliminating the collar. So this is a novelty knit Liberty top in it's not a fleece, but it certainly has the heft of a fleece. And then I just inserted some flat piping to identify those diagonal seams on the front, and then used a standard ready-to-wear binding for the neck. This is one of my favorite shirts. So yes, fleece would be fantastic for this. And again, you could do the opposites. You could do the flat weave in the front and the fleece on the back, or vice versa. You could mix it.
Is it possible to do a full bust adjustment on the E-jacket?
Is it possible to do a full bust adjustment on the E-jacket? The answer is no.
And people are asking about the length of that. Do you think you want to put it on?
Sure.
They say it looks very short in the gallery and asked if you lengthened it. Some of them are on me, so that could be part of it.
Yes, Erin is tall, and she does a lot of the modeling, so sometimes things look a little bit shorter. Am I properly put together here? This is so comfy. I love this.
There we go.
Okay, so here's the back. It's below my waist by whatever that is, 3 or 4 inches. And then,
That looks nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can whip this thing up in, I hesitate to say, some people could whip it up in 20 minutes. It would take me 3 hours, but whatever. In a sewing sitting, you can whip it up.
Okay, I think that's it.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Oh, wait, we have specials.
Okay.
Can't forget our specials. Lots of specials today. So the E-shrug and the E-jacket download patterns are $12. The West End, right here, and the Bristol printed patterns are $18. The Tamari apron pattern is only $5. It's normally $15, but we're giving a Halloween special for $5. We have 2 tutorials, the Make the West End beginning to end tutorial and the Sew and Knit Wardrobe tutorials are $15. All of the fleeces, they're brand new to us. All the fleeces and ribbings are 15% off. The Halloween fabric, the, what did we call it, Haunted House, Going Goth fabric is 15% off. The no-sew basting tape is $10.50. And the ikat prints that I showed at the very beginning for the aprons are $10 a yard, which is 55% off. Huge savings. So there are the specials.
And they're all under Linda's videos.
They're all under Linda's videos. They're listed. Plus, if you're on our email list, which you probably are if you're watching today, you get the notification tomorrow and the next day of what's on sale and what's going on. So thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate you joining me.